Good afternoon, class. This is our second review of multiplication. This will be the last review of multiplication we do. When we're talking about different multiplication representations, there are lots of different ways to solve a multiplication problem, and that's a good thing. We're going to learn a few today. What I would like you to do is find 2, maybe 3 of these methods that you really like and that make sense to you, and then you need to practice them. That way you get used to doing this multiplication. Eventually, you're going to have to learn to do the traditional method. So if that makes sense to you, I would definitely practice that one. If it doesn't, we'll ease into it as the year goes on. Let's start with the traditional method. So in the traditional method, if I do double-digit multiplication, such as 35 multiplied by 52, I'm going to line up my numbers. Now in multiplication, it doesn't matter if you line up your ones and your tens like it does in addition. It often, though, just helps people keep track of what they've done to line them up. So I have 35 multiplied by 52. I'm going to start with my ones, which is my 2 right here. So this is my 2. I'm starting with the number on the bottom. So I have 2, and I'm going to multiply that by 5. So I have 2 times 5. That's 10. Well, 10 has 0 ones and 1 10. So this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. I'm then going to say 2 multiplied by 3. So 2 multiplied by 3 is 6 plus my 1 that I had to regroup. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Okay? I'm going to cross out my 1 so that I know I did it. I'm going to cross out my 2 because I multiplied 35 by 2. Basically, what I did was 5 times 2, which equaled 10. And then I did 30 times 2, which equals 60. Now, if I look, 5 times 2 equals 10, 30 times 2 equals 60, and I add those together, I get 70. 70 matches my number over here. Okay? So that's what I did, but I did it shorthand by doing 2 times 5 and 2 times 3 rather than longhand like this over here. Now I'm going to place a 0 here. This is telling me I'm moving from my 1s to my 10s. So essentially I'm multiplying everything by 50 rather than by 5. So I'm going to start over here with 5. 5 times 5 is 25, which gives me 5 and 2 to regroup. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2. So I have 15, 16, 17. Because I don't have any numbers left, I don't need to regroup. What I did there was I did 5 times 50, which equals 250. And then I did 50 times 30, or I could write it 30 times 50, which equals 1,500. If I add those together, I get 1,750, which is my exact answer over here. Now I'm going to add those together. I'm adding these because essentially I split my multiplication problem into 2 addition problems. Okay, so I had my 70 over here and my 1,750 over here. 0 plus 0 is 0. 7 plus 5 is 12. So I need to have my 2 here and carry my 1, which is my regrouping. 7 plus 1 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is 1. So my answer is 1,820. I must make sure, though, if I'm going to get full credit, to add my comma. So I'm going to circle or box my answer so my teacher can see it. If I do it this way, the traditional way, and I show my work like this up here, that is considered acceptable showing your work. If you do it like this, which is one of our methods we're going to view next, that is also acceptable and will be considered showing your work. We have the same problem as last time, 35 times 52. This time we're going to be breaking it into tens and ones. So 35 is the same as 3 tens and 5 ones. 52 is the same as 5 tens and 2 ones. Now what I'm going to do is multiply these together. So I'm going to look at this and I need to do 2 times 5 ones. So I have 2 ones times 5 ones. Then I'm going to look over here. I need to make sure that I'm multiplying all my numbers together. So I need to make sure that my 2 ones also multiply my 3 tens. Well, if my 2 ones are multiplying 3 tens, I write that like 30. So I've made sure that my 2 multiplied both my 5 ones and my 3 tens. Now I need to make sure my 5 tens multiply both my 5 ones and my 3 tens. So I have 5 tens multiplied by 5 ones. So 5 tens, remember, is 50, and I'm multiplying that by 5 ones. Then I'm looking at my 5 tens. I make sure I multiply that by 3 tens, which is the same as saying 30. So this gives me 4 multiplication problems. The nice thing about this is that I've broken it into even numbers or smaller numbers. Numbers that I use a lot, such as 2 and 5 and my tens. So I have 2 times 5, which I know is 10. I have 2 times 30, which I know is 60. I have 50 times 5, which is 250. And I have 50 times 30, which is 1,500. Okay, I'm going to add all of my answers together. So I have nothing in my ones place. I have 1 plus 6, which is 7, plus 5, which is 12. I need to make sure that I regroup my ones. So I have 2 tens and 100. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 5 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is 1. My answer is the same as the last answer, but I just got it in a different method. I need to make sure that my comma is in there, and that I circle and complete my answer. Okay, let's look at a modified array. Now, if you remember, an array is simply drawing a square or a rectangle to signify our multiplication problem. As you can see, we have 35 times 52. I don't want to draw 35 lines and 52 lines. So what I'm going to do is split these numbers up. 35 is the same as 30 plus 5, and 52 is the same as 50 plus 2. So I'm going to draw my array like this. This section is going to represent 50. This section is going to represent 2. Okay? This section represents 30. This section represents 5. Now, if you see, my 50 and my 2 are on the same side. You must make sure that your number is on the same side. I would never put 50 over here and my 5 over here because that's not the number. That would be 55. What we're multiplying is 52 and 35. Okay? So now I'm going to look at this multiplication problem. In this section, the numbers that intersect are 50 and 30. This is also like drawing a table. The numbers that intersect are the numbers I'm going to multiply. So 50 times 30 equals 150. Okay? Now I'm going to move to my next section. This has 2 times 30. Those are my numbers that are multiplied. 2 times 30 equals 60. Okay? Now I'm going to move down to this bottom section. My number is 50 and 5. So 50 times 5 is 250. And then my last section is 2 times 5, which is 10. So here are all my numbers. I'm going to take my numbers and add them together. And as you can see, when we add them together, something is different than the last time we added our numbers together. Can you tell what's different? I'm adding my ones. 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 1 is 17. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 2 is 4. Uh-oh. This number doesn't match the other numbers I've done before. This is why learning multiple ways is so helpful. So what did I do wrong? I'm going to go back now and double check, because I know that this isn't the correct answer because I've done this 2 other ways and that's not the answer I got. So we're going to cross this out because we know this is incorrect. And I'm going to go back. 2 times 30. Well, if I have 32 times, 30 plus 30 is 60. So this one I think is correct. 2 times 5, that's my basic multiplication fact. I know that's 10. 50 times 5. Well, I know 5 times 5 is 25. So if I am doing it in tens, I need to make sure that my tens place is represented. Yep. So 250. So let's check 50 times 30. Oh, do you see what happened? This is a really common mistake that students make. If you are multiplying 2 tens together, you must make sure that you are adding the correct number of zeros. Okay, so I have 5 times 3, which is 15. That part's correct. But I have 2 tens, which means I'm going to be in the thousands now instead of in the hundreds. Okay, this is a really common mistake. It's also why we learn to multiply multiple different ways so that we can double check our solutions. Okay, so let's check our solution now. Let's see if we got the correct answer. I have 1,500 plus 250 plus 60 plus 10. Nothing in my ones column, so that's a 0. 5 plus 6 is 11, plus 2 plus 1 is 12. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And I bring down my 1.